We'd like to welcome Teresa Amore now, who is a mother of 3 adult sons, one of whom lives with Prader-Willi syndrome. She's also the proud nonna of a granddaughter. Professionally, she has extensive history working in community services and health and specialises in disabilities, aged care, mental health and palliative care. Teresa is passionate about equity, access, education and continuous improvement for individuals and families navigating the NDIS space, and in particular within the Prader-Willi syndrome framework. Teresa is deeply principled and believes effective communication is the key to meeting goals and values. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Maria. Welcome to everyone. Thank you to PWS for the invitation to share my or our story. From walking a solo path to creating our village. At the core of our being here together at this conference is that we recognise we can learn from one another through our shared knowledge and our lived experience. By sharing our unique journey, we build upon understanding and many others can then benefit. I firmly believe that PWS people are the teachers and through them we learn to become the experts. Who we are. My name is Teresa. I have 3 adult sons and 1 granddaughter. My sons are Mark, Paul and James. My son Paul lives with PWS. Paul and his brothers have all consented to my sharing of our journey today. What I'm presenting today might not be applicable to everyone. It is applicable to those living in Australia with PWS and accessing the NDIS. There may be pockets of information you already know or are unsure of. I hope that I'm able to simplify some of the NDIS methods that are directly applicable to our people living with PWS in Australia, and that by my sharing it may be of some benefit to you. These are some of our notable journey milestones. Prince of Wales Children's Hospital Randwick, Royal Prince Alfred Hospital Camperdown, medical and allied health clinics and providers, specialists and emergency services, general practitioners, research groups such as the Garvan Institute, Brain and Mind Institute, support groups such as Carers Australia, advocacy groups such as the National Disability and Care Alliance, National Disability Services, early intervention and school prep, streams of education, mainstream supported and special needs classes, primary school and secondary school, travelling interstate and overseas, post-school options, transition to community, employment, supported work and community access groups, transport access, social groups, sporting groups and interest groups, accommodation such as crisis respite, emergency respite homes and group homes, guardianship tribunals, police stations, local courts, local, state and federal representatives, the Royal Commission and the NDIS. This is a snapshot of only some of our major pathways that we've walked on in our journey to date, and we've packed a lot in 34 years. Often the choices we faced along the way appeared overwhelming and insurmountable. Perhaps some today may recognise themselves on any one of these pathways. Please remember this is our distinctive journey and not a formula attributed to everyone living with PWS. My standing here is a testament that there is resilience and hope through any of those challenges. At a very basic level, it was evident to me from the onset that anyone living with PWS faced obstacles and challenges to accessing health support, education, sporting or social interests and employment, etc. Paul has 2 brothers, Mark 3 years older and James 3 years younger. They've been able to choose and navigate their life path choices such as school, sports, hobbies, without the obstacles and challenges that middle son Paul has faced. Their milestone list, although significant, is much shorter and easier to navigate than that of Paul's. As a mother of 3 sons, I found this notion inequitable. I have questioned and contested this from the very onset. It is important to understand our history in order to appreciate what we are advocating for, where we have come from and where we are going to next. Back in the early days, there was very little access to government funding and support. As the needs of our PWS people, our children living with disabilities, we were still being slowly assessed and information trickling down and being collated. We, in our journey, wore the cost to accessing appropriate and timely speech therapy, occupational therapy, physiotherapy and hydrotherapy from our own pockets. Back in the 1990s in Sydney, if you did not have funds to pay for your services privately, you went onto a public health systems registry. Back then, there was an average 6-year wait list to access a speech therapist for a new referral. So by the time your child diagnosed with PWS was actually assessed and then allocated interventional support, their milestone early intervention developmental years had already passed. The government in those early days allocated block funding or grants directly to the authorised organisation and providers, and they themselves managed their budgets and allocation of services and support as they determined were necessary. These pools of funds were divided between the aged care sector, the disability sector and the home care services, collectively known as DADIC. It was an inequitable system that fell far short from meeting the needs of those living with disabilities, and there was little recourse for us to address this. By 2002, I, with many other parents, became founding members of a disability support and advocacy groups. Our committees formed out of necessity to address obstacles that we were faced with as we walked along our son Paul's path. We formulated our local council's first Disability Access Committee. We as parents were successful in ascertaining our very first special needs preschool teacher. We created a local carers group, peer-to-peer support groups and the like. It was upon this premise that while connecting with many other like-minded parents, people, members of the community, representatives in the community, that the conversation of Every Australian Counts was born. Every Australian Counts is a grassroots campaign that fought for the introduction of the National Disability Insurance Scheme, and we won. Every Australian Counts consists of hundreds and thousands of people with disabilities, their families, their carers and those that support them. At the core of our campaign was a fair go for people with disabilities in Australia. The National Disability Insurance Scheme, NDIS, was officially launched in 2011, a pilot program in 2013, and the national rollout in 2015 onwards. I was involved with all of these stages. By the end of 2023, there are 342,000 people living with disabilities that have access to the NDIS. There is value in numbers. While the NDIS has made a difference to many lives through the supports they have provided and approved, the NDIS is also not working well for many others. The NDIS is a constantly changing landscape. As a collective, we need to challenge the inequity again and again. We need to work together to secure appropriate funding for those living with a disability and who are reliant on the NDIS to ensure that they have access to what is reasonable and necessary to make their choices in determining their quality of life. Broadly speaking, what is the NDIS? It is an Australian government social reform program that funds all costs associated with disability. This information can be found further on the NDIS website portal. Each support that the NDIS funds in your plan must be reasonable and necessary support. Broadly speaking, the NDIS funds should overcome any disability-specific barriers that may be stopping a person living with disabilities from pursuing their goals. Goals or objectives or things you wish to pursue, you have identified that these goals are important to you. You may need assistance from the NDIS and other services to help you pursue these goals. Some of these goals might include building your skills and doing more useful things for yourself, working or studying now or in the future, having social and recreational activities now or in the future, building friendships and connecting with family. Why are goals important? Goals are measurable. They help evaluate strengths and how to use these goals, encourage building independence and building towards trying different things. Your goals can lead to positive feelings such as satisfaction and happiness. Your goals can lead to a life of value and purpose. To understand the NDIS further, they place support categories into 4 different budgets. In core supports, it's an essential assistance required in your daily life, and this covers the supports that help you with everyday activities, assistance what occurs in your day-to-day life, assistance with social activities, community participation, for things that you need and use on a regular basis, for your transport needs, funds for supports in your home and how you choose to live there. With capacity building supports, it's what brings you purpose, value, self-worth and independence. These are the supports that help you in the background. They support managing behaviour, assistance and choices in how to keep them, finding and keeping a job, supports to maintain your health and wellbeing, assistance with improving your everyday living skills, assistance with improving your living arrangements, enhancing social and community participation, lifelong learning, relationships, support coordination and psychosocial recovery coaches. Capital supports are assistive technology or equipment modification to the home or to the vehicle. These equipments or devices are that help you specifically because of your disability. This technology may assist you with making safer or easier choices. They can be home modifications for maintenance and repair or specialist disability accommodation. For the regular supports budget, it's the budgets of the supports that are made on a regular basis, such as transport. Where are we now? What about PWS and the NDIS? How many people are currently living with PWS in Australia? In Australia, there are currently between 600 and 1,200 people living with PWS. PWSA currently knows of around 500. What are the disability-specific barriers that may be facing our PWS people? Let's list some of the recognised complex PWS layers. Some psychological and characteristics that can affect a person physically, emotionally and mentally. Mild to moderate intellectual disability with distinct cognitive limitations, malfunctions of the hypothalamus, which is responsible for hormone regulation, no satiety, therefore a severe desire to eat due to constant hunger, physically carrying less muscle, so requiring lower consumption to avoid weight gain, heightened level of anxiety, processing information slowly and having difficulty executing multi-stepped tasks, generally poor executive functioning skills, highly reactionary and exhibiting extremes of behaviour, deficiency in growth hormones, muscle tone and mass, and the major health concerns are severe obesity, related comorbidities such as predisposition to diabetes, fatty liver, lymphedema, sleep apnea, mental health. In our own family case, we also have the added complex layer of cardiac complications, epilepsy, narcolepsy and cataplexy. From these identified layers of barriers, we can start to target the support needs areas and formulate our PWS-specific goals. Some of the goals in the areas would be mobility and motor skills, exercise and movement, communication, social interaction, learning and interests, self-care, food access, security and safety, self-management, environmental management, restrictive practices, behaviour support, family support. From this list of identified goals, we aim to then link the appropriate service supports. For mobility and motor skills, we would use physiotherapy, occupational therapy, the support of mobility aids and home modifications. To address our exercise and movement needs, we incorporate physiotherapy, exercise, walking, hydrotherapy, swimming. To assist with communication, we can utilise speech therapy and/or assistive technology and devices. Social interaction, we would integrate psychology, community participation, social skills training. To support learning and further our interests, we would request teaching assistance, learning aids and art therapy. For self-care assistance, there are direct support workers and social support. To assist with self-management, we require supports that are flexible and value our choice. To manage our environment and build independence, there are supports for home and living. To address our barriers with food access to ensure security and safety, we have restrictive practices, assistance with meal preparation, support from nutritionists and dietitians. Our goals with restrictive practices is to address and maintain safety and to reduce our risks. Our goals with behaviour support is to identify and reduce triggers. Our goal with family support can be in the form of respite, social and recreational services, assistive technology and domestic assistance. Are these considered fair and reasonable if you live with PWS? How are these goals and supports measured by the NDIS? How do you justify these needs and costs to the NDIS? To answer these two last questions, we build on the foundation that the NDIS evaluates your goals, places your goals into support categories, align these with the price guidelines and inclusions. These inclusions form your core support, capital building and capacity support, and these outline your NDIS plan and budget. To further facilitate and develop an appropriate individual NDIS plan, there are approaches considered best practice and that support improved outcomes. There is value in numbers. It is important to maintain records, documents and data. When you compile and build statistics over time, you start to build an illustration or a picture which can be measured, reviewed and evaluated. This information can display emerging strengths but also determine risks and challenges your person with PWS is facing in their everyday living while trying to achieve their goals or work towards their independence. There is merit when you keep your own journal or with a noted calendar event. School incident reports, teachers' reports, medical assessments and outcomes, ambulance and police reports, court reports and outcomes, allied health observations, functional assessments and recommendations. These are collectively evidence-based statements and measurable data that give a holistic evaluation of what your PWS person requires to overcome PWS disability-specific barriers. The more concise information provided, the more it assists with clarifying needs and identifying what is occurring with your PWS person. Your documentations communicate how to best recognise and develop safe strategies and implement support, how to encourage capacity building to assist your PWS person and how they meet their goals and lead a valued life. How effective is evidence-based documentation, referrals, assessments and incident reports? A one-off incident can be overlooked or dismissed, but a collection of data surrounding PWS health or behaviours demonstrated over a long period of time will display developing patterns and milestones. These will also highlight the impacts if your PWS person is not supported appropriately and the directional consequences. Documents further demonstrate the effect on those supporting a person with PWS, impacts on immediate family, extended family relationships, the local community and the wider community resources. The goals and supports recognised from this collated and presented data can be evaluated as reasonable and necessary. Due to the rarity of PWS and the complexities of health and behaviours, it is important to identify all challenges, all risk and capacity building to support the PWS person. It is important to document and provide all these collated statistics or data to the NDIS in an initial assessment and consequently every NDIS review. This is to ensure the appropriate information is recorded and recognised and suitable funding can be allocated to meet the specific needs of the individual person with PWS every time and with every review. We and our team collate and collect evidence-based materials when we transition from one life milestone to another, when there is a change in our environment. This could be a physical change such as where we live, or it could be a resource or team member change. We produce and submit this information and monitor impact and every subsequent NDIS review. Much of your evidence-based documentation will come from your teams. We refer to teams as the many and varied people that support your person with PWS by providing assistance and guidance in helping them achieve better outcomes and meeting their goals. Who are your teams? Teams typically consist of those working in the medical field, such as general practitioners and specialists in their field of knowledge, your allied health clinical teams, such as speech pathologist, dietitian, nutritionist, physiotherapist, exercise physiologist, personal trainer, occupational therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, behaviour support practitioner or psychologist, art therapist, teachers, trained skilled direct support workers, support coordinators, plan managers and other general NDIS providers. At this point, I'd like to acknowledge a huge shout out to my own team. Some have travelled with our family for many years. Most have journeyed here today to attend this unique conference. Thanks to each and every one of you. You know how much we value and acknowledge our relationship and how we support Paul in the centre. Today, I also wish to acknowledge the very talented Mel Botha, who is the creative genius behind today's PowerPoint presentations. Everyone in our team communicates and works together. They share information, strategies, functional assessments in providing the best holistic results in support of our NDIS applications, reviews and recommendations. Paul, I, our family are all part of this team. We all communicate openly and regularly. Back to our team list. We've now identified the supports that the NDIS recognises as fundable and that they are the needs of our PWS person. These are fundable supports that are necessary and reasonable for our PWS people to overcome disability-specific barriers in attaining their goals. Of note, medical practitioners are not funded by the NDIS. They fall within the realm of health provision and not a disability support. But their health and medical reports are invaluable additions and have substantial weight to every NDIS review. Of note, trained or skilled direct support workers are a necessity in our NDIS plan to ensure that we are identifying and mitigating risks to our son Paul with PWS and to the larger community. Trained refer to direct support workers that have had comprehensive education, training and supervision in supporting a person with PWS. In our plan, we have a behaviour support practitioner known as a specialist psychologist. They develop, assess, review and help implement his comprehensive behaviour support plan. This is a holistic document that contains proactive and evidence-informed strategies to improve a person's quality of life and support their progress towards positive change. This is an integral factor in our NDIS plan. In all our NDIS plan reviews, when identifying our goals and requiring support, we place a submission for face-to-face or one-to-one provision. This is based on our own extensive documented history with our PWS person. As a team and as a family, we provide specific evidence documents that reflect that our son responds positively, progresses towards his NDIS identified goals when working and being supported with one person at a time. As a team and as a family, we've also provided evidence based on documented history that our PWS person does not progress or perform well in a group environment. Funding him less than 1-to-1 ratio historically has placed him and those with him at risk and in direct conflict with his ability to meet his NDIS plan goals. This effectively sets him up for failure. With every bridge we've crossed and behind all the decisions we've made while advocating with and for Paul, the responsibility has been as his authorised and approved legal guardian and financial manager. The definition from the New South Wales trustee and guardian is: a legal guardian is someone who can make healthcare, lifestyle, medical decisions on behalf of a person who lacks safe decision-making ability. As a financial manager, it's someone who is responsible for managing financial decisions and legal affairs on behalf of a person who is impaired due to disability, age, mental illness or injury. This responsibility is particularly relevant in our family as Paul lives with restrictive practices and to ensure his safety and also those who support and live with him in his home environment and in the wider community. Restrictive practice is any practice or intervention that has the effect of restricting the rights or freedom of movement of that person. Restrictive practices aims to address behavioural issues and minimise harm. They do not aim to treat a medical condition. What about the NDIS and restrictive practices? Behaviour support and the use of regulated restrictive practice are considered a high-risk support and therefore subjected to additional requirements. Who are the NDIS behaviour support practitioners? These are practitioners that the Commission of the NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission consider suitable. These are providers who implement regulated restrictive practices and must be registered with the NDIS Commission. They must undertake functional behaviour assessments and write behaviour support plans that need to be registered with the NDIS Commission. The role of the restrictive practice in the behaviour support plan. The use of restrictive practices contained in the behaviour support plan must reduce the risk of harm to that person with disability and or others. Be the least restrictive response possible in the circumstances to ensure the safety of that person with disability and or others. Be used as a last resort in response to risk or harm of that person with disability and or others. And this is after the provider has explored and provided evidence-based, person-centred and proactive strategies. To be proportionate and potential negative to be proportionate to the potential negative consequences or risk of harm, to be used for the shortest time possible to ensure the safety of the person with disabilities or others, be clearly identified in the behaviour support plan, be authorised in accordance with any state or territory requirements and evidence of such authorisation lodged with the NDIS Commission. What are the steps for developing and implementing a new behaviour support plan? What are the NDIS requirements or required responsibilities of your behaviour support practitioner? The behaviour support practitioner must complete an interim plan. They must complete a comprehensive plan that includes regulated restrictive practices. These plans must be lodged with the NDIS Commission. They must have consent and authorisation. They must obtain and upload informed and consent in their submission. The practitioner must support the implementation of the plan through the provision of person-centred training, coaching and mentoring. The behaviour support practitioner evaluates strategies through regular engagement with the participant and by reviewing and monitoring data collected by the implementing provider. The behaviour support plan must be reviewed every 12 months while the plan is still in force and must be reviewed if there are any change in circumstances which require the plan to be amended as soon as practicable after those changes occur. Once again, this is a sharing of our own PWS NDIS journey and choices. It is not prescriptive to everybody's journey. Our restrictive practices are embedded within our comprehensive behaviour support plan. These practices help identify risks with access to food and money. We are reviewed regularly by the New South Wales trustee and guardian. The NDIS matrix may appear a complex and confusing maze of choices and challenges. When working well, the NDIS has the potential to promote equality and access for every person. In particular, areas of the scheme can directly benefit those living with PWS. The more informed we become, including the current wave of changes, the clearer the path becomes and those choices are. We continue to advocate with Paul as a family, as a team and as a community. We all want to ensure that he has the same equal rights to pursue his goals and enjoy his life choices, so he can contribute to a fulfilling and productive life as each of his brothers have and as each of you and I do too. It takes a village. We built our own. It continues to grow. I hope the insight into our journey will continue to encourage and assist you in yours. We can advocate with our PWS person as a parent, carer, relative, friend or professional. You can also combine your voice with others to actively progress the lives of all PWS people. I remain active with the Every Australian Counts campaign and many others behind the scene. I would like to encourage each of you to continue networking, communicating, sharing and learning to ask those questions. One voice combined with many makes a difference. There is value in numbers. You are not alone. This conference is evidence of that. I thank you for your patience and your time. May this conference inspire and connect you far beyond today. I'm here to help, so please feel free to ask any questions and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you.